A former police officer turned lawyer must use his martial arts skills to fight back against the bad guys. Based on the true story, okay, here's my review of The Prosecutor. Donnie Yen plays Fok Shi Ho. We get a short scene in the start of the film where he is a police officer, and he's is a really quick action scene in a warehouse. And he's fighting some bad guys, and then at the end of the scene, he decides he doesn't want to be a police officer anymore, and he decides he's going to go to school and become a lawyer. And then 7 years later, the film shows us him tackling his first case. Donnie Yen's first case as a prosecutor is a young man has received some very, very poor. He lives in this kind of like shanty slum area in this like makeshift caravan with his grandfather, and his grandfather's quite ill and almost dying. And this young man, he receives a shipment of drugs from Brazil, I think. And once he receives the drugs, the police knock on his door and go, "Hey, is this what's in this package?" And there's drugs in the package, and then he gets arrested, and then they go to court, and then Donnie and the prosecutor, this young man, he's defended by this very wealthy a lawyer company in Hong Kong, and he's represented for free. And then, but eventually, they go to court against the prosecutor, Donnie Yen, and this young man is found guilty, and he has to spend about 25 years in jail, even though he pleads his innocence. He says the drugs are not his, and they were meant for somebody else. He knows about the drugs, but he says some other bad guys shipped the drugs to his home, and he wasn't aware that this was going to happen. So he ends up getting found guilty, and he has to spend 25 years in jail. But prosecutor Donnie Yen, he feels bad for the young man. He feels something suspicious. He thinks something has gone wrong, and he dives into the case more closely, and he eventually finds out that the lawyer company that was representing this young man, they have connections to the mafia and triads in Hong Kong, and that this young man was kind of a scapegoat for these drug cartels in Hong Kong. So Donnie Yen wants to investigate further and bring these people to justice who have used the young man as a scapegoat. The Prosecutor is directed by Donnie Yen, who also stars in the film as the prosecutor. And Donnie Yen has directed films such as Legend of the Wolf, Ballistic Kiss, and Shanghai Affairs. Okay, I'll start off with my positives about the film. Donnie Yen, he really knows how to direct a electric, well-shot action scenes in this film are not amazing, but they're quite good. We get in the first half of the film, we get quite a few action scenes littered throughout the scene. Not maybe quick, like 3 or 5 minute action scenes throughout the film. The first scene is when Donnie Yen's still a police officer. It's in a warehouse, and action scenes are shot from a first person video game type perspective, where he's shooting the bad guys. It's a little bit gimmicky, but it's quite well done. And then later in the first half, there's a few scenes where Donnie Yen's on the street fighting some bad guys with his martial arts skills. And then there's one scene I liked where him and the grandfather, they're in the parking lot, and then suddenly one car starts chasing them, and then Donnie, like the parking lot is kind of like a circular going down and down and down. So Donnie Yen has to jump up and down between the different levels to try and capture the bad guy. It's quite well done. But then there's quite a lull in the second half of the film. There's not many action scenes until right at the end of the movie, where, of course, the film is about 2 hours long, so there's quite a lull, maybe 45 minutes, 50 minutes, where there's no action scenes. But there is one 10-minute action scene at the end of the film set in a train, which is very well done. Donnie Yen has to fight quite a few bad guys in this scene, and it's very well done. He uses like the posts and the seats and everything in the train has his advantage to fight the bad guys. And there's a showdown with the main bad guy in the film in the train, and it's quite well done. So I like that scene. But this film is not really an action film. This is mainly an legal drama thriller with some action scenes sporadically throughout the movie. So if you're looking for a nice Donnie Yen action film, this is not really it. This is mainly in a legal drama. But for me, that's where the positives end. For me, this is quite a long, uninteresting, boring film for me. The problem with this film is I like legal dramas. I like courtroom dramas. The problem is the main legal case in this film. It's just not interesting. There's no layers. There's no subtext. It's just this what I described at the start of the video. It's just a young man. He's been framed, and then he drugs sent to his home, and that's it. Like there's no complexity to this legal case. It's boring. And then finally, after the legal case is over and Donnie Yen is suspicious of the outcome of this case, once he goes into the case a little bit further, we find out about halfway through the film that we find out who are the bad guys, we find out what they've done, and so there's no suspense in the second half of the film. We're just basically waiting for the bad guys to be brought to justice. So there's no suspense, there's no tension, there's no there's no twists along the way, which is a bit of a shame. Yeah, the film just doesn't have any complexity or any subtext or any nuance to its themes or subject. It's just these bad guys done something wrong. They're drug dealers. They're drug triads. It's just the bad guys have done something wrong, and then Donnie Yen has to bring them to justice. There's no commentary about the whole system in Hong Kong or about the whole system. It's just good guys and bad guys, and that's it. And that's why the film was not interesting for me. I give The Prosecutor 2 stars out of 5. This film is just, there's no complexity to the legal drama. The legal drama is quite boring and very simple. And then we find out what happened. We find out who the bad guys are, what the outcome of the film will be very early on in the film, which means there's no suspense or tension throughout the film, especially in the second half of the film. But the action scenes that are sporadically in the film, they're quite well done. They're quite entertaining. They're not amazing, but they get the job done. And so if you watch the film at home and just skip to the action scenes, maybe you'll enjoy the film more than I did. So thanks for watching. What did you think of The Prosecutor? Please comment below what you thought of The Prosecutor. See you next time. Bye.